What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Talking Figures. As always, I am Tony. Today's guest is another true artist, and I'm happy to sit here and talk some shop with him. You can catch him on his YouTube at jmkcustomworks. There you'll see where he teaches you all the tricks of the trade, and you'll learn some gems over there. He also has a live stream that he goes live. I don't know when you go live with your dad.
It's kind of intermittent right now, but
You know
we're
what I mean?
we're kind of shooting for at least once a month moving forward.
All right, awesome. So he goes live once a month with his pops. And you also can catch him on the It's Chad live stream from time to time. I see you there a lot too.
That's
He's
true.
a funny gentleman. He's a very talented gentleman, and he has a knack for turning action figures into priceless works of arts, just like many others out there. Please welcome to the program the very funny, the very talented Mikey of JMK Custom Works. What's up, bud? How you doing?
How we doing?
It's good
Yeah,
to have you on
doing
the
good.
show, man.
Dude, it is awesome to be on with you, man. I have been looking forward to this
This
very
is awesome.
much.
Awesome. I appreciate that, man. I've been watching you on It's Chat a lot. That's where I kind of discovered you, and I went over to your Instagram and then your YouTube and everything like that. And dude, there are some guys out there that do great jobs with customs. Like
Oh
I'll
yeah.
never take credit anybody else out there but you, bud. You got a knack.
Thank you.
You got a talent, dude. I mean, we'll get to that in a second, but we'll start where I start with everybody, and that is, when did you start collecting, and what was the figure line that got you kind of into the whole collecting?
Um, so when I got started collecting and not my parents buying me stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's the stipulation. Um, it would have been 2019.
Okay.
2018, we went my um my parents and myself went to the last JoeCon, the last official Hasbro one in
Okay.
Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that was kind of where Dad took a step up. But I wasn't really into it, so I just kind of enjoyed like looking at the old stuff and the new stuff, and I'm like, this is pretty cool, you know. I had taken a long break from toys altogether. I mean, probably since I was 13 or so, so about that long. And the following year was the first Joe Fest we went to in Augusta, and it was still in a smaller hotel, and it was just a couple of rooms. And I saw one figure by Marauders Gunrunners, and it was called Theodore, and it was a John Wick figure. Um,
Okay.
so this
Oh,
figure brought me right back into it.
holy shit.
Um,
Is that
so
three? That's 3 3/4.
yeah, that's 3 3/4.
Right
And of
on,
course,
dude.
he had like a suited jacket and everything. I mean, he
Yeah.
was really cool, and he came with tons of gear. And I was like, I gotta have that, man. I love those movies, you know. And
Hell yeah.
so I bought that, and then as I was kind of walking along, it was really just my mom and I just kind of doing stuff around town, you know, going to see places and letting him kind of do his toy thing because it wasn't either of our bags. So I'd come back from time to time and just check on him. You know, hey, do you need anything? I'll run out and get it. And he's like, I want to show you something. So he took me to this Marauders booth, and I saw that, and I was like, well, I got to have that. And then I came back, and I was like, you know, it'd be cool to have like some of the old Joe characters, you know, like if they look this cool now, you know, imagine how cool they would be. So I was like, all right, so pick one. And he was like, okay, well, it's Snake Eyes because, you know, he's like the most iconic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
knows Snake Eyes. And so we hunted for a good version. Of course, the modern construction figures, there's like, you know, 40 different versions of Snake Eyes. And so I finally found one I liked. And then I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to get a couple of Cobra Troopers, you know, to put up there with him. And next thing I know, I'm dropping a couple $100 at a con on GI Joe figures, and I had him in a tackle box in the hotel room. My dad came back, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was just opening up toys, man. I was just cutting them open, putting them in the container for safe travel, you know. And he was like, "Oh, so this is the new wave, is it?" I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know what's going on. Um,
It's like the John Wick was a taste. It's like first one's
yeah,
free,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you
yeah. It
come
was
back
my
for more.
gateway toy.
For real, for real. So now
Yeah.
you said your dad went to a lot of these things. Your dad was into collecting before you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I grew
Oh
up
wow,
with a toy collector as a father. I mean, my
that's awesome.
entire life, I've grown up with GI Joe and Marvel and DC, and was an avid comic book reader and a movie buff and a music buff. So I have had twice the experience I should, just based
Yeah.
on pop culture.
Hell yeah, dude. That's fucking
So I mean,
awesome.
we played with GI Joes when I was a kid. I mean, I was born in '90, so I had kind of missed most of the heyday, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah.
But we went to GI Joe conventions even when I was a kid. You know, we were growing up. I grew up just a little south of Kansas City, Missouri,
Okay.
and just on the other side of St. Louis, Neil DeSimone had GI Joe conventions, and we went to a handful of them, and it was rad, man. I mean, the mid '90s was a hell of a time to be a
Yeah.
kid that was interested in Joe's because nothing was worth very much. I mean, you had your special stuff, but you'd go and you'd just get to like play in just bins of 12-inch action figures, and you get to build stuff. Then you flip through the comic books, and they were like four for a dollar,
Good
and
old
so
days.
yeah, for sure, man, the golden days. Nobody was making much money, but everybody seemed to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been into the nerddom,
Yeah.
always.
So it's
I
basically
just
it was like a X gene that got unlocked when you went to that
Yeah,
convention pretty much.
yeah, essentially, I was locked into the chamber like Deadpool, and they just cut out the oxygen until my mutation sparked up. That's pretty much
Exactly.
exactly what happened.
Now, was your father a customizer or did he just collect?
He was a customizer, he was
Okay.
customizing Star Wars figures before GI Joe figures came out.
Oh wow.
He was one of those kids that was collecting his flag points and mailing them in for Sergeant Slaughter so he could keep swapping out Gung Ho's arms so because he kept breaking thumbs.
Wow.
So when I was a kid, there were parts bins. I'd go into his room and we'd just build custom figures. And we'd just get these
That's
legs
awesome.
and this waist, and we'd go out and paint them. And yeah, it's always been a part of me. It just kind of died for a while, I
Wow,
guess.
yeah. Usually when everybody I noticed that interviewing so many people that whenever they hit that age, they just hit that age where it kind of like trails off or just kind of cuts off for them. Like, well, no toys no more. I got to like
Right,
grow up or whatever it is. And then you hit an age, it's everybody's different, but everybody hits that age where they're just like, these fucking things are awesome, and I really don't care anymore. Like, I want to still play with them. The nerd thing never goes away, just kind of
right.
gets buried.
It goes dormant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, one afternoon, like you just said, you go to a convention. That's kind of how it happened with me. I went to a friend's house. He had toys. I was like, what the fuck? This is what they look like now. And it unlocks where you just like, now I want them all.
yeah,
I got to have them
yeah,
all. You know,
yeah, for sure.
what do you primarily stick with GI Joe, or do you have the same thing with your dad, where you kind of spark off into Marvel, DC, and all the other toy lines?
So GI Joe is definitely primary. I think it
Okay.
really always has been with us.
Okay.
But you know, we both have a love for Star Wars, Marvel, DC.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so there's just kind of the primary focus, and then your
Yeah.
secondary and tertiary, and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, it's
Hell
it's
yeah,
kind of
dude.
all over the place, really.
That's awesome, dude. So now let's talk about customizing for a little bit because that's probably going to be the meat and potatoes of this episode. Because,
Sure,
like I said, I've seen and I've spoken to a few customizers, and I'm going to speak to plenty more.
definitely.
And I've seen your work, dude, and it's fucking like what you showed me just a couple days ago with Snake Plissken and the Rambo figure. Because I was thinking about making a Rambo figure, and I asked the gentleman who 3D prints if he could just send me a 3D printed Rambo head.
Yeah,
But I didn't have like an idea of what I wanted to do just yet. I kind of knew that he always would have to have combat boots and like the fatigues or whatever. I never
sure.
thought, what about the upper body, right? And then like recently, like now the head came in the mail or whatever. I was like, fuck, I got to make this guy. But then I was like, you know what? Instead of breaking my back, I think I should send it to somebody where I know when it comes back to me, like it'll be like, oh fuck, this was
Just
worth
what
it.
you want. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And
yeah.
then when you sent me that picture of Rambo, you're like, this is the Rambo I made, and I was like, fuck, that's the Rambo, like that's the one. So, but my question to you is like, when you started customizing action figures, was it because they were figures that you didn't that you noticed weren't coming out, or was it just you like, yo, my father used to do it, and now I want to start doing it to these 6 inch guys, or did you start with the 3 3/4 new ones
Yeah.
and go to the classified? How'd it work?
Yeah, so I definitely started with the modern, 4-inch figures, because
Okay,
they're a little bit bigger,
okay,
They're still 1/18, but, scale is with toys, it kinda fluctuates what
yeah,
is
yeah,
called what. So, with the modern 4-inch figures, that's definitely where it sparked again, and I would definitely say I was collecting at that time,
okay,
and I wanted to assemble the team and grab all the characters I wanted, and really what it came down to is I just wasn't willing to pay 60, $100 for a good version of a figure, like every version they came out with Roadblock, I was like, sculpt doesn't look good or the head doesn't
mhm,
look good. And then the best one ended up being like the one they released as it was a con set, I think, but he was the Tiger Force version, but he looked
okay,
amazing. He looked so good. And I was like, I'm not gonna spend that money on a damn toy. Like, that's
man, that's crazy.
absurd. And so I was like, I mean, I could probably paint one, I could probably
Yeah,
get by. And so, I paint that one and then I'm like, yeah, they never made a good V2, like a General Hawk with the leather jacket. And I was like, I'll make that too. And then it was like, oh, they never made a Thunder. And I was like, I could do that. So I just started doing it, and then it just kind of snowballed.
yeah. So what led you to classified?
Actually, so my dad was on board with classified right from the beginning,
Oh wow,
and
really?
it just didn't do anything for me. I was like, I really like the 4-inch stuff, and I'm cool with Marvel being, 6-inch, and I don't think I had any DC at the time, or if I did, it was just like the Hal Jordan Parallax. It was just
Okay,
one.
yeah,
And, and so I was like, I think that's fine. Marvel and DC stuff has always been bigger than GI Joe scale wise. You think of the early stuff, the superpowers, and
yeah,
the early Toy Biz X Men stuff. And I had tons of that growing up, and it was fine. I don't mix stuff together, so it was like, yeah, GI Joe's just a different
e
scale, no big deal.
exactly. Yeah, and I was the same way.
Yeah. So he actually had me do some customs for him, and I had done 4-inch customs for him before. And he was like, I had made. I don't know if you're away familiar with the sideshow, the 12-inch GI Joes that they did that are like super
No.
realistic, really detailed.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen a few of them, yeah.
Yeah, so Sideshow came out with this really awesome line of really bringing GI Joe to life. Like you're looking at it and
Yeah,
you're like, how has there not been this movie? Like obviously it you can do it. Like this is what it
yeah.
would look like. Well, they had a Desert Cobra Trooper, and he
Oh,
was
wow.
all tan, and I think there was an officer version that had like a red logo. And this was 2020. This was the shit.
Yeah, yeah,
And my dad was like, he was like, I want you to do the same 4-inch figure that I had done. He was like, I want you to do a 6-inch. And I was like, okay, those Cobra Island troopers were like near impossible to find.
yeah.
So I started going to Target and looking for them. And, I was unsuccessful as just about everybody else. And I ended up asking one of the people that worked there, and I was like, hey, I think these are supposed to be out, and I'm looking for one. And I don't think the release date had happened yet, but people had found them and bought them.
Yeah,
And she was like, okay. She's like, well, I can't sell it to you, but we can put it in customer service, and then next week you can come buy it. And I was like, okay. So I ended up buying a Cobra Trooper. I was, as far as I know, I was the first one to completely disassemble a classified figure, like down to everything, so I could paint this thing. And there were some unkind comments on that post because I was posting my custom stuff, and I was like, "Hey, if anybody wants to know, how a classified figure breaks apart, here's the pieces." And I had it all
yeah,
laid out, and so I painted him a Cobra Trooper, and then a as we continued down the road, he had me do some other stuff, and we had what, 6, 8 figures that initial run, the Cobra Island stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, I'd like you to make me a hit and run. I want you to make me a shockwave." And I'm like, all right. I mean, there's a
Okay.
limited
Yeah.
amount of parts, but we'll see what I can do. So I did those. And again, just it never sparked my interest in him. And then I don't even remember what figure it was, but I was eventually like, that's a that's a good looking figure. That'd be cool. I'd get that. And
It's
then I
always
started
one.
messing with them and I was like, I like this scale. Like it's fun
Yeah.
to mess with. Like it takes more paint, but I that's not that big of a deal to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I fucked with the 3 3/4 because I had the Marvel Universe ones.
Yeah, I
And
remember those.
yeah, I like those. I had a lot. I had most of them. Like it was like almost like one of those things where you knew when the drops were coming. So I would be at Toys R Us, Walmart, wherever it was, picking them up. And then one afternoon, I don't know what it was. I just was like, they're just not doing it for me anymore. Like they're
Mhm.
too small. I just didn't really like the details. Some of the paint work on those small ones is like the first kind of generation ones were real bad.
Oh,
So I
especially do
was
you
just
remember the showdowns
yeah,
where it was, like, tied to a video game it was tied to a card game, like a points-based game?
yeah. It
Man, the
was
paint was tough on those.
yeah.
It was
So I was
real
just
bad.
like, yeah. So I was just like, fuck these. Um, I was crazy because I never saw the re-released GI Joes. I'm sure they
Really?
were on the shelves. I'm sure, but I never saw them. Like I didn't know those were a thing because even when I was collecting the Marvel Universe ones, had I saw those, I would have definitely because they would have probably paired perfectly.
Scaled
Because
right up, yeah.
yes, when I was a kid, the one thing that drove me crazy was the fact that everything was bigger than GI Joe. It drove me up a wall because I was just like, why can't you give me a 4 inch Marvel figure then, just so I can fuck with these guys, or vice versa?
Right.
So it wasn't until like I'm taking pictures of Marvel figures, and I love doing it, but I was like, they keep beating up the same 3 Hydra troopers. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So I go to Walmart and I see Gung Ho classified on the shelf. And I'm, oh, this guy looks good. Looks like a mercenary. He's got a fucking tattoo
Sure,
on his chest, right? Let's
sure.
bring him home. I take him out of the box, same thing with you. I'm like, whoa, like this guy's fucking sick. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, I didn't expect him to be that cool.
Yeah,
Like I just thought it was like, oh, it's GI Joe gives a shit. Anyway, fast forward 2 days later, I go back, I pick up everything that they had. So it was just like one of those things. It's like a one figure thing. You just kind of go and you're just like, all right, I'll do this for you. All right, I'll do this for you. And then one afternoon, you just start to kind of like, I don't know if it just starts to wear on you, but you just kind of go, oh, what the fuck? This is sick.
yeah.
But it's like I said, immediately sold the 3 3/4 and then just jumped on the 6 inch bandwagon. I was like, fuck everything. I'm going to start jumping all in on the six guy, like a few 6 inch figures. And
Sure.
then that was it. I just sold all those shits and kind of off to the races
Full
I
commit.
went. Yeah. I like, now coming into this toy, whatever you want to call it, I know a lot of people shun the word community,
I
but,
don't mind it. It's fine.
but, when I discovered Chad, that's when I discovered really like how valuable the little guys could have been because of the amount of shit you can build. Like I didn't realize them. They make more play sets for the 3 3/4, the 118 scale than they would
Oh,
ever
yeah.
do for 112. Like it didn't really occur to me
Sure.
that, oh shit, if you just look, you could find more stuff like world building elements for that
Definitely.
scale than the other scale.
Yep.
But I don't know, 112, it has me. And it seems that it's got you because you got a lot of 112 back there behind you.
I have a lot of 112 from going
Yeah.
from I'm like, "Nah," I had Marvel stuff, like, I had slowly kind of assembled an X-Men team, and
Yeah. That's how it always
I
happens with
got my
fucking Marvel.
Avengers up here,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, finally, cool, yeah, I'll get that figure, yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
that figure," and next thing I know, I'm just dumping money into Mercari and eBay, and it was it was ridiculous.
So how, again, I try to start you on the custom thing and I stopped you. I'm sorry. Um, when you see a toy, let's say, um, what sparks the interest in making movie customs? What sparks the interest in making the custom that no one else kind of thinks of? Like where you're just like, I want this because no one else has it, or I want it because I know Hasbro or whoever might not manufacture this figure. What's the thought process behind the start of the customs for you?
That's a great question. I have found that a lot of my customs are, like, personal challenges for me,
Oh
like,
wow.
I don't collect a lot. Like most of the figures behind me are that aren't 3 3/4 or Marvel. All the GI Joes and Bala stuff that's behind me.
Yeah.
Most of it, if it's mine, it's projects that are kind of just works in progress or customs for other people that I'm waiting on a piece. So most of my collecting ends up being movie characters because growing up,
Wow.
movies were a big part of my life. I mean, dad would come get me out of school early and we'd drive up to the city to see a movie, like
That's awesome.
it was just such a big deal,
Yeah.
so like I know like nobody's ever going to make Tears of the Sun custom, figures.
Yeah. No, that's
So
it.
I'll do it. That's
Yeah.
cool. Like I don't mind. I'll do that. And a lot of it, like I said, it comes down to the challenge of it, which is why I really like doing commissions
Yeah.
because it's somebody's challenge that they've given to me. It's my task to complete, and I think most of the time I end up getting more out of that than I do like selling something or buying something off the shelf is because I met that and I beat it. Like
Oh yeah,
I
dude.
overcame that obstacle. I don't know, it's a really weird thing, but the more I've thought about it over the years, that's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah. Well,
It's just a challenge.
you're basically taking somebody else's vision and bringing it to life. That's basically the challenge. Like someone says, "I
Yeah.
want this," and then you're like, "Yeah, all right, I'll kind of take what you got in your head and
Yeah.
I'll create it." Like I can't. Like I said, I've come to you now a few times already about some customs and stuff like that. Um, so I have to ask you this question because yeah, I saw Rambo, I saw Snake Plissken. You just said you had Tears of the Sun figures.
I don't have them,
No,
but it
okay,
is
but you work.
on my
It's on your
to-do
list.
list.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make a John McClane figure?
I do. I have a John McClane figure.
God damn, you lucky bastard.
I
You
mean,
gotta
it's
tell me that.
it's really simple. Like, again,
Okay.
it's most of the stuff for me is works in progress. So,
Yeah.
I painted I've, sourced tons and tons of heads, and a few weeks ago, I was just like, "I'm just gonna paint the heads so I can have the heads done."
Yeah.
So I did, and John McClane was one of them, and I ended up just putting him on the Legends Wolverine body in the wife beater. I was like,
That's what I
"I'll
was
put that on
thinking.
there. That'll be my placeholder.
Yeah.
Someday I'll work on it."
Now, would you do the barefoot John McClane or would you keep shoes
Yeah,
on?
yeah,
Barefoot, right?
he'll be barefoot. As soon as I
Yeah.
figure out how to put Quick Kick's feet
Yeah.
on that Wolverine body, he will be barefoot
That's
for
awesome,
sure.
dude. What customs haven't you made yet? I mean, you just kind of said John McClane you're working on, but what customs haven't you made yet that are on the high list that you're like, these are ones I'm making for me, no commissions. I want this custom figure on my shelf.
It's a really good question. Um, there are so many movie characters that I want. Um, one that's I was just talking to Zakanan last night about. I want to do a Lieutenant Hondo from the movie SWAT. Sam
Oh
Jackson.
wow. Yeah.
I want to do that, so I've got to source the parts. And sourcing the parts, since it's my personal project, I just take my time, and then when I
Yeah.
find the right piece, I'll add it to the container, and that project will be complete someday, hopefully.
That's awesome, dude. Who else? Well, who else is on the list?
Um, so a while back, I kind of made an '80s action hero list and a '90s action hero list of
That's brilliant, by the way.
figures that I want to do. Like if you assembled a GI Joe like group of all of the names and faces that you wanted, who would be on this list? So obviously Sarah Connor is on that list. So I have a Sarah
Wow.
Connor head.
That's
I have
awesome.
got I was thinking, I was like, ooh, Magnum PI would be kind of cool. It'd be kind of like
Yes.
Spook. So I got Magnum, and then of course Clint Eastwood, because I always I love just about any Clint Eastwood movie, but
Yeah,
Heartbreak Ridge was
fantastic.
a really big movie for me when I was a kid. Still one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
So he is right there,
That's
and
awesome.
he's just a basic build. I just painted the head. Um, yeah, you talk about it a lot, but Tango and Cash is one of my favorite
I'm
movies.
still
I've
waiting.
always loved that movie. So as soon as I find a solid Kurt Russell head, like I can
I'm
find Escape
still
from New York,
waiting.
I can find Jack Burton, but that version, the later
Yeah.
mullet, it's a little tricky. It's a little
Yeah.
tricky.
I always assumed that they were trying to make another like Martin Riggs, which is another custom figure that I'm shocked. Martin Riggs and Lieutenant Murtaugh from Lethal
Mhm.
Weapon. But like that movie was up and kicking, and I think they kind of wanted to make Tango and Cash like that kind of movie, because if you remember watching that movie, there's a lot of saxophone music,
Oh,
just like
yeah.
just
Oh,
like
yeah.
Lethal Weapon. And I remember the mullet he had. I was like, he looks like Riggs. He looks like he could be Martin Riggs's cousin or some shit,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, I've never seen that head. I've never seen anybody even come close to making those two figures. I've seen so
Nope.
many different Stallones, your Rambos, Rockies, even Demolition Man. I've seen
Right.
John Spartan figures. Never
Yep.
saw Ray Tango. Never
Yeah.
saw it, and it makes me so sad that that movie is literally lost in the ether, because
Yeah.
like it's because you tell people like, you ever see Tango and Cash, they go, "What the fuck is that movie?" And I'm like, and another movie I always tell people that
So good.
it's one of those movies where you're like, this ain't gonna be good, and then you watch it and you're like, this ain't that bad. Was Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man? You ever seen that movie
Yeah,
with
with, Mickey Rourke.
and Don Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah, another custom guy, two custom figures I would love to absolutely have.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah,
One of my big ones, Navy SEALs. Charlie Sheen, Michael
yeah.
Biehn.
Oh
Oh
god,
my
dude,
god.
yes,
I love that
yes,
movie so much. It's so goofy, but yeah, I definitely wanna do that team. I'm assuming once, we've got, Ripcord coming the HasLab,
yeah.
I guarantee they'll do a regular version retro carded. I'm gonna end up buying, like, 6 of those. Ripcord's my guy.
Oh
So I'll
yeah,
have one on my little shelf there for Ripcord, and then the rest of them are gonna become Navy SEALs. Like, that's pretty
that's
much the
awesome. Yeah,
plan.
yeah. Would you make Tom Cruise from Top Gun? That would be fairly easy, right?
That would you could definitely do that with that Ripcord body
Yeah,
or
right.
wild, but, whatever, either way.
Because that
Yeah,
might be.
you could
We
definitely
might
do
we might
that.
have to collaborate on that one, because I want because I always do you think at some point they're gonna make like what do they call it, the Sky Striker, like the F-15 looking plane,
Yeah, the
M112?
F-14 Tomcat.
Yeah, that one. Do
I
you
don't
think
see
that?
that happening
No.
in the classified.
Okay.
Honestly, at this point, I'd rather they didn't. Like,
Yeah, it's too big.
F-14 is it's so old. Like, pick a new plane. Like, get
Yeah.
something new, you know?
The only
Do the
reason I would want
Conquest.
them
Like,
the only
that's
reason
a
I would
big
want them to make that plane is just so I can get a custom Tom Cruise and just play the Top Gun music, and like, 'cause that would be the perfect little shelf right there. DTOF, that plane with him just kind of walking away from it.
It
You know,
would.
I yeah.
It would.
I
You'd have to do a runway dio for sure.
oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Dude, if you had to right now, you said that you want to make like a team of movies guys. Like let's call it like let's say it's your action figures expendables,
Yeah.
okay? Name me 5 characters. You don't have to name like actors. Name the characters that you would want in your team right now.
Current or, like, at any time and place in
Anytime.
history?
Any character that you want, like you might, these are my guys. I'm going to customize them and make this my team.
Ooh, man, that's tough. Oh, man, what a question. Um, wow.
Yeah. I'd put Tom Cruise in my list. I don't know if I would do. I don't know if I would do Top Gun or if I would do Ethan Hunt from Mission
Ethan Hunt
Impossible.
would be pretty legit.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, hmm. Dang,
that's good, right? That's
that's
a good question.
tough. That's a good question, man. Oh my goodness.
do have you considered making a James Bond custom? Because that's a figure that I'm shocked hasn't really hit shelves all that. Like they have Indiana Jones stuff, which is cool, but I'm shocked that we haven't seen a James Bond.
That does seem surprising considering how long that's been a thing. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a part of pop culture for like every generation. Um, that is surprising. I mean, I'll probably do some customs once Fresh Monkey Fiction releases those tuxedo suits.
I know.
Once that happens, like, okay, well, now I need Roger Moore. Timothy Dalton.
Dalton, yes.
I'm gonna need everybody. Sean Connery, everybody.
When I saw that Indiana Jones white suit,
Mhm.
I immediately thought Timothy Dalton. 'Cause I
Mm.
mean, it was like, oh, I remember that front cover of, uh, what is that one? Oh, fuck, what was the one that he was in? Not not Living Daylights, but the next one, License to Kill.
Oh, License to Kill. Okay.
License to Kill. I remember that front cover. He's like this with the gun. And he's got the white jacket on, whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
as soon as I saw that figure, I was like, Timothy Dalton Bond. I think I can get on board with that. You know, but I
Yeah,
don't.
that'd be a good use of it.
Because I don't like the Indiana Jones line at all. Like I didn't really bite even when it wound up at Ollie's. I didn't really care. I see it every now and again when I go there, and it just doesn't like entice me. But when I saw that white suit body, because I don't know if I'm assuming you're like me when you see figures, you immediately think, who can I turn this into? Right? Is that
Either
like,
that or I've got, like, a list of parts that I'm on the lookout for, and
oh,
something
okay,
comes out, and I'm like, "Ooh, there it is."
yeah? So you're already like on
Like,
the lookout, essentially, like,
it's
oh,
it's
that's got,
either from one side of it or the other, like, I
yeah,
can do something with this figure, or that figure has something I need to do something
with
else.
it, yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Are you
Yeah.
excited for any of these like these new ones, the one with the wings and like can you think you can do anything with those guys?
For the classified stuff,
Yeah, like that Raptor guy or whatever.
Raptor and,
Yeah.
Road Pig and those
Yeah.
guys. None of those spoke to me. I got really excited about the 60th stuff,
Yeah, I like those, yeah.
the Marine sniper
Yeah.
and the, what they call it, pilot, but it's obviously not a pilot, it's a
The
paratrooper.
Halo Jumper, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, since Ripcord's my guy, I wanted that, and
Yeah.
that sniper is that's awesome. I'm on board with so I pre-ordered both of those through my local comic book store,
Hell yeah, dude.
but the rest of them, like, I don't see anything here for me, like, they
Yeah.
look great. I watched, Yojo Jerk's, review of the Raptor today, and I'm like,
Raptor, yeah,
"Wow,
I did too.
that's a great looking figure. What a
Yeah.
toy." Nothing in it for me.
Yeah. I don't see
So until
anything really
somebody's
that.
like, "Could you do it Python Patrol?" I'm like, "Yes, I could do that."
When I watched that video, because I watched it as well, I thought to myself, well, that would be a good Marvel Legend because that looks like Falcon. Like that looks like
Falcon,
the new
Vulture.
Spanish dude that
Mm,
takes over because he becomes Captain America, Sam
mhm.
Wilson. So the other guy who becomes Falcon, I'm like, I don't know. I was like, and I saw the wings, how articulated the wings were, and I
Impressive.
was very impressed with it. Yeah, I was like, this is interesting. I didn't think they were gonna move around this way because I don't know if you have that MCU Vulture figure. It
Mm-mm.
The wings resembled those. It looked very much like that MCU. I don't have that MCU Vulture, but I've seen it, and I know
Yeah,
people who have it. And when I saw the pictures, I thought I was like, oh, they basically just recycled this shit.
that's what I thought. I was like, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
gonna be 4 points of articulation."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And to see how much
Wow.
articulation the thing had, I was like, oh, that's a whole new thing.
That is a whole new thing. Yeah, like, I'm like, "Oh, wow, that totally overshadows the bird not having articulation. Those wings are intense."
Yeah. Uh, is there anything else you make other than custom action figures? Have you ever dipped your toe into the diorama making world or anything along those lines?
Not really. I did a, um, kind of a Dio stand,
Okay.
for Joe Fest 2020. I had done the entire October guard for my dad,
Wow.
and so I did, I used, hobby stuff that's, already has the brick in it and, like a sand gravel texture, and I kind of formed tiered steps and then put half of a wall, and then we made the, Russian flag, the red with the yellow hammer and sickle, and put it
Right.
behind him, so it was just kind of a little display dio, um, and that was what I submitted to the custom contest for that year. That's really, like, the only dio I've ever done,
That's awesome,
um,
dude.
but
That's
it's
awesome
always
start.
been something I thought was cool, like, I
Man,
remember when I was a kid, we had, family friends, and they were really into train models, and they
those are my
had, like, this
favorites.
huge spread, and I was like,
Man.
"Oh my god, could you imagine this for GI
Yeah,
Joes?"
yeah. Oh, my we used to go to Pennsylvania a lot. Right. So I went there one time during the holidays, and this guy was like that with a train state, like the whole holiday thing. And as soon as we walked in there and I saw that, my immediate was like, why isn't that bigger for toys? Like
Yes.
that's literally what drew me to dioramas. Because when I started collecting action figures, I don't know, maybe you're like me, but I can't let them sit in a box. I got to play with them. So I needed a reason to play with them. And that's how I discovered photography. I discovered articulating comic book art. And I was like, oh shit, this is a thing. And then I started taking pictures. But then from there, I was like, this is cool with like the orange background or like the solid background, but I wanted something more. Like the
Mhm.
more I started to kind of dive into it, the more I started to see that the cool pictures were the ones that had like a lot of cool shit around the action figure. It wasn't
An
just like a
environment.
plain, yeah, it wasn't just a plain
Mhm.
background. And that's what led me to dio structure. The Facebook dio structure was all about dios. And then obviously you watch Al's figures. That's the guy everybody watches first. You know, you
Yeah.
find that guy. And then you're like, oh fuck, this is what you can do with XPS foam. Like I didn't know. And I come from the cosplay world because I made a lot of costumes a while, many years ago. So I was like, I like what they're doing, but I think I can apply my own style using like EVA foam and other stuff. Like I like XPS foam and I use it, but I there are a ton of other methods. You don't just have to stick to one. So I just
Sure.
started going like, I want to try this, but I want to try it my way. So I just started watching that guy and then a couple other diorama makers just to kind of get an idea. And then off to the races I went. And then I realized how much better it makes whatever, like even if it's just a picture. Like forget stop motion, play motion, all the other stuff, because that's really what I make it for. But like even when I just take a simple picture to
Yeah.
see the
Still
environment around
photography.
them, yeah, it completely changes everything. Even on a shelf, like the shelf behind you and stuff like that. When you see it like all decked out in like a set, you build like a little diorama for those things, it'll change the whole environment to where you're like, oh fuck, I want to set these things up in poses now. I don't want to just stand them here no more because now everything is kind of like everything. It's my mind's my creativity, the creative juices start to literally flow as soon as you kind of put up a diorama. I noticed, and
Oh, yeah.
it's crazy how to explain. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure you feel the same way when you're creating an action figure and you're getting to that, I guess, the finish line, the sweet spot where you're starting to see it completed, and you're like, "Oh man,
Mhm.
I can't wait to fucking get this thing in
Yeah.
a sick pose." Or like this thing is
Right.
coming to the end now. Like for instance, when I finish my office diorama, I tell people this story all the time about you, and you showed me the Destro that you made. I don't know who you made it for at that point, but you had made it for somebody, and you're like, "This Destro should be in your office." I remember turning to my wife and saying, "Yes." He should be in my office, and I think I said that to you. He should be in my office. Yes, I need him,
Yeah,
please.
send 'em to me.
Yeah, send it to me. I would love to put him in my office. So it was like custom works like that. Like those are one of a kind, man. I don't think anybody like thought to do that kind of shit, and it's that kind of stuff that I think to me sets you apart from everyone else. So what was the thought process for that Destro? Because like I said, I love that figure so much that I'm getting one from you. So I just wanted to hear
Yeah.
your thought process when you decided to create this Destro.
So we've seen tons and tons of versions of Destro, and I've always really liked him. The only one I'm not a big fan of is like the first Iron Grenadier ones because the asymmetrical boots really bother me.
Okay.
But but with the 6-inch stuff, we've just gotten the one and then the Prophet Director
Yeah, yeah,
repaint. Those are pretty uninspiring. Like as
I
far
agree.
as Destro can be really cool. I think my favorite version is probably from the um what show was that? The cartoon Resolute, where
Okay.
he kind of has like a long coat that's double breasted, and I'm like, oh man, that's hard.
Yeah, yeah,
So you think about like you've seen Battle Destro, but Destro's a businessman.
yeah.
His primary deal is arms dealing. Like he's not coming to a arms deal with a freaking cape. What's he coming? A badass suit,
A
man.
bass. So yeah.
Yeah, he's rocking Gucci coming into that thing. He's he is Pimp Daddy Destro.
Hell yeah.
And so then that Tombstone figure came out, and I was like, I always see Destro as a big, menacing presence. Not
I agree.
out,
I agree.
otherworldly, but he's gonna stand a shoulder above just about everybody.
Everybody, yeah, yeah.
He's gonna walk into a room and your eyes are gonna hit that dude, and it's not because of his chrome face.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he's intimidating. And
Well, because
I was
he's
like,
got that
"That
chest out too,
tombstone." Yeah, I
right?
mean,
His
he's
outfit, his chest is out,
oh,
the big
yeah.
ass collar.
You know it, you know it. He's coming in, gold and red, throwing it in the air everybody's face. Yeah. So that tombstone figure came out and I was like, "Finally, that's the body." Like, the ones we had before were all small guys,
Yeah,
Arcade, Hammerhead. Those were all regular size figures. This one, holy lord, look at the shoulders on this guy.
yeah, yeah.
And then I was
Still
like,
might
"How do
might be
I
my
do it?"
favorite might be my favorite suited body.
It's really good, and it
Yeah,
still articulates well, even though it doesn't have, like, butterfly joints or anything like that, but it it's just a really nice sculpt, and it's a big dude,
yeah,
and when I saw it, I was like, "That's gonna be Destro." So I got it, and then I figure out the neck thing, and I'm like, "Well, shit. How's this gonna work?"
yeah, that was fucking
And so I
weird.
was like, "I'll cut the head off, and I'll make it work." And then that was what happened, and I just X-Acto chisel tip, chop the head off, and I was like, "Oh, there's a cavity in here. Well, I could build a post for that." And then I just did it to brought it together and
Wait, so the head is, like, hollow?
yeah, so inside the neck into the head is a cavity.
Oh, wow.
I assume excuse me. I assume that's just to save on material.
Yeah,
There's probably some sort of mechanical advantage pulling it from a mold because it can compress a little bit or something like that. Yeah, so all you gotta do is just chop the head off. You gotta sand a little bit so it fits into the new I use the Mezco head because I think it's the best Destro head, but
yeah,
you could put a classified on it. You would just have to work at it a little bit extra.
okay,
And then, yeah, you just form a post. I use green stuff, but you could probably use styrene or really anything. I mean, to
yeah.
do it. And, yeah, and then I was just like, "Well, obviously he's gonna be red and gold, and I gotta get this blue out of here." And, then I brought him to DFW, and I had him standing right next to my hooded Cobra Commander I did with the HISS tank, the one that came with the HISS tank.
Oh, yeah.
Had repainted it so he was dark blue with the gold stripe, and then Mython came over and bought him, like, immediately. So he got the first one, and then I somebody saw it and was like, "Can you do another one?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
And
hell
so I
yeah,
did
dude.
that one, and now you've got one. So it's the only figure I've done 3 times, that's for sure.
That's all dude, I'll just
And
never
each one I
forget seeing
just
that picture.
changed just a little bit. I
Bit
changed the
oh, good,
pocket
so
square.
good, so they're always unique. They're
They're
always
always
basically
different.
unique. Yeah, hell
Always
yeah, dude.
different.
I'll never forget when I saw that picture. I was just like, "Oh my god." I don't like, it takes a lot for me to go to customizers because I know what it takes. Like, I know what the price is gonna be. So a lot of the times
Sure.
I kinda steer clear because 'cause I'm like, I don't even wanna waste their time because I know that they have to put a lot of time and effort into these things, and, I don't wanna waste their time, so I tend to kinda try to learn on my own and do it myself. But when it came to
Sure.
certain customs, I'm just like I'm kinda like, "Fuck it." Like, I'd rather it because, well, like I said, something like Destro, you it's unique. Like, no one's gonna have, like, aside from the other 2 guys who went to you personally to get that particular figure made, like, there's only 3. There's only 3 of 3, and I have 3 of 3 right now. So,
Yeah.
to me, it's just like, the amount of work guys like you, Tony's Figs, Toy Gains, you guys put into customs, it like, I don't really usually kinda compare the 2, like, what I do with dioramas and stuff like that, but it is kind of like, you literally take a figure that was only $24, and within a couple of days, a couple of weeks, it turns into something that is worth hundreds to me because it goes from what it was to what it could have been had they,
Sure.
like, like, if they kinda open their mind and not just give you the same Destro painted red, you
Right.
know? Like, "Oh, we
Yep.
just gave him a cape now, but
Yeah. He's
he's
got a
painted
cape,
red." Yeah,
but
and
he's
his
got money that's
briefcase
on
is
fire.
yeah,
You gotta
his
get it.
briefcase is gold, like,
Yeah.
it's that kinda shit. So to me, like, that's what I want. Like, that's what I want from GI Joe. If you're gonna give me variants of figures, I'm fine with that, but they should be different. I'm sick of the same Snake Eyes painted 100 different colors. Like, I understand that shit worked in the '80s. Like when with the small guys, I understand because we were kids, we didn't give a fuck. But we're adults now. We kind of have attention to detail, especially when they're on a 6 inch scale. So like,
Oh yeah.
if you're gonna give me a Destro figure, why can't you give me a suited Destro? Why does it have to be? If you're gonna give me profit director, it's in the name. He
Yeah.
should have been a businessman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I think profit director Destro, I don't think the silly red suited cape. I think the one that you showed me. Like that's the one I think, and I think that that's what's lacking when it comes to all these variant figures. Like it's cool to have um a bunch of Wolverines. I love Wolverine; he's my favorite character. But
Yeah.
my favorite variants are when he's in street clothes because at least it's different. Because now you know it's not just the same molded body painted a different color. At least they went and made a new mold. Like it's new. It's he's in a suit. Whether it's like the patch or it's the cowpoke Wolverine, whatever it is, it's a new Wolverine, and it's
Sure.
not just the same fucking suited one,
Yeah.
a costumed one painted differently. That drives me crazy. Oh, you know what? He drives me even more crazy, bro. Is they released the Tiger Stripe Wolverine, and then a couple months later, release it in a 3 pack and just lighten the yellow up a bit. And they're like, no, it's a different Wolverine. You
This
know,
is different.
it's
Oh,
like
this one's cell shaded. This is different.
exactly. You know, don't slap on a fake mustache and tell me you're Italian now. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, dude. Like, it's like it's just fucking crazy
What are
to
you
me.
doing?
Yeah, yeah, I'm Italian over here.
What
Ah,
are
look at
you
the
doing?
mustache. Oh, I don't know. I love collecting action figures, and I'm sure you like collecting them. But here's the real question. How long do you see it going for? Do you see a shelf life on your collecting and customizing, or do you think that you're going to be doing this until the end of time?
I'll I don't really see an end in sight. I think I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah.
do it until I can't or my heart's not in it.
Okay.
Like things I do, I'm kind of a cyclical person. Like I'll
Yeah.
get really into one thing, I'll be listening to crime podcasts and then I'll be like, okay, I'm done with that. And then, and then I'll move on to something else. Music is that way. I'll listen to one genre and then I'll be like, all right, I'm ready for something else.
Yeah.
So unless that happens, I don't see me stopping.
Oh yeah.
And as long as there's a challenge that somebody can offer me, I'm think I'm just gonna keep grinding on it. Like
Hell yeah, too.
I dig it. I mean,
Awesome.
this is my getaway, Like I come home from the regular, 9 to 5 and I paint toys.
It's
This is all of my spare time is this.
yeah. The one thing I noticed about all of us is that's the common ground. Is it's a getaway. It's always like a safe space or a way to check out, a way to not think about real life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we all like came together. That's why we all bonded together because like I said, the main goal is to because you don't want to think about the real world because the real world fucking sucks. This is the
Yeah.
checkout from it. This is like I'm not thinking about that stuff. My wife asks me constantly, like, why do you watch all these toy things every fucking day? It's because and I tell her it's because when I go in the other room and you got this stupid debate on, or you got this stupid Brett Cooper on yelling about fucking everybody else, I'm like, I get angry just hearing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can't retain the knowledge because I don't want to be angry all the fucking time. I go out there, I listen to guys talk about action figures. They're my age. We have the same kind of sense of humor. We all laugh at the same type of jokes. It's literally I'm not getting angered by any bullshit that's going on in the world. It's literally
Yeah.
like a playground. Like we all met at a fucking playground. We're all just telling jokes and fucking cracking on each other and just having a good time. That I told her that's what's missing in this world is like the brotherhood feeling and like the family feeling that I've felt within this toy realm, and it's
Yeah.
it's rare, which brings me to my next question: how did you discover it? Like, what brought you to YouTube, and who was like the first channel that you found? And you're like, oh fuck, this is like a whole thing on YouTube. I didn't realize this was a thing.
Um so there's probably a couple that I owe that to. Um One is it's Chad.
Yeah,
Um, Him and I were talking before either of us were YouTube. When he would see my customs and he would message me about like, "Hey, I want to do this. How do you think I could do this?" And so I'd be like, "Well, I don't know. I would do this." about what kind of, how would you build this character, this
Yeah.
figure, and be like, yeah, okay. So like I remember one of the very first conversations we had is he wanted to build the team from the movie The Losers.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was
Okay.
like he was like, "How would you do that?" And I was like, I mean, I would probably do this and do that." And he's like, "Okay." And I was like, "If you're looking for heads, you can go to AVAX Lab, you can go to Rage and Spoon, and just find a head that kind of fits the character. Like obviously nobody's going to have Chris Evans in glasses. Like you're kind of screwed there. So just find a head that's kind of close and that
Yeah.
gets the character." And I've always kind of looked at actors like when a comic book changes who's doing the illustrations, it's
That's
still
a great way to
Captain
look at it.
America, but
Yeah.
it's not Ditko anymore. Now
Yeah.
it's Jim Lee or something, John Byrne, whatever it is. It's still that character. He just
Yeah.
doesn't look exactly like it. So I was just kind of like, yeah, just find something that looks close. And he never did it, but we constantly talked about, he'd show me customs he did, and I'd show him something I was working on, and then he started doing YouTube, and I was like, "Oh man, Chad's got a YouTube channel. I'm gonna watch that." I didn't watch YouTube videos unless I was like, I was working on the car and I was like, "How the hell do you get this off?"
Yeah.
And so it was like just a resource. It wasn't recreational.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I tuned into one of his shows and I was like, this is really cool. And I was like, I don't want to interact with the chat. That's too much. I just want to watch.
Yeah.
And and then I started commenting a little bit, and it just kind of snowballed from there, and then he had me and Matt LaCroix on to do the Road to Joe Fest when he was doing
Yeah.
that series, and that was my first experience on YouTube, and I was like, this is a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
And I had another buddy that he also has a YouTube channel, but he runs a record store and he's a comedian. His,
Oh,
his
wow.
name is Chris Grant, and with Heavy Heads Records. Shout out, buddy.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
And he he would come up to Kansas City when he was doing like record buys and stuff, and he would go out and he'd flip through people's storage containers full of vinyl, and he'd get stuff for the shop. And I'm into vinyl as well, and
Yeah.
so he'd come over. It's Kansas City, so we'd go grab some barbecue,
Hell
and
yeah.
then we'd flip through the records he found. Or a couple times I went on picks with him, and he would see what I was working on. He's like, "Dude, you need to put this shit on YouTube." And I was like, "Dude, nobody wants to hear what I got to say. Like every people know." And he's like, "I think people would like to see it." I just kind of discounted it, and then eventually I think it was like a comfortability thing. Like
That's usually how it
I
happens. Yeah.
always I always felt like I just it sounds dramatic, but like I wasn't good enough to present. Like I
Yeah.
shared stuff on groups and they got great reactions, and like other customizers would message me like, "How the hell did 200 people like that post? I've been doing this for this many years and I got like 6." And I'm like, "I have no idea, dude. I don't know. Your stuff is awesome. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what
Yeah.
to tell you."
Yeah.
Um and so
That's
like it
awesome,
just
man.
eventually I just got to the point where I was like, "Man, let's try it out." Like people message me wanting commissions, and that was another one of those things. I was just like, I don't know how I feel about selling it. Like it's like a piece of you,
Yeah.
to an extent. But then you're like, well, what if they get it and they're like, oh, this actually doesn't look very good. What the hell am I supposed to do there? What if paint flakes off? Like, yeah, they dropped it off an 8-foot shelf, but I might have feel partially responsible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just kind of get to the point where you're like, well, that's not what you sold them. That's something that happened after. Like
Yeah.
if they want your work, they want what you've done. Like they're looking
Exactly.
at it and it meets their standard. That's what they want to buy. And
Exactly.
so
Dude, I
that's it.
we are literally the same. Like, I would put all this stuff on in the background just as noise, and mine was Articulated Ninja. Like, I would always put
Yeah.
him on because he was like I like the music, I like the vibe. And one day he was
And
live.
that voice. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's very true. That is very true.
Yeah.
And anyway, he was live, and my wife turns around. She goes, "Why don't you say something?" I'm like, I watch his lives all the time. I'm not saying a fucking word. I don't want to sound
Yeah.
like a moron. No one gives a shit what I have to say. I'm not saying
I
a
don't want
word.
to fangirl.
Exactly. She goes, just say something. I was like, all right. So I said, I don't know what the fuck I said. And he put it on the screen, like immediately. Hey, how you doing? Legendary thing. I was like, oh, cool, man. All right. I was like, all right, he acknowledged me. That's nice. Right. And then he
That was a
said,
pretty awesome feeling.
yeah, yeah. And then he said, I'm gonna be at uh I forgot where it was, but it was somewhere in Massachusetts with Valaverse. And I was like, oh, cool, I might go to that. But I didn't say anything. Right. So I went and I saw him and I chickened the like chicken shit. They couldn't say nothing to him. I actually bought something from him. He handed me the package. Didn't say a word. I left. My wife let me. She did not let me live it down until months later. By the way, like every day, we would go on the. He would go live. She'd be like, "Tell him that you saw him and you didn't have the balls to say what's up to him." And I was just like, "All right, shut the fuck up," you know. And so finally, he says, "I'm going to be at ZoloCon," and then that's when I finally spoke to him. And I gave him my card, and all this stuff happened. But that's how it happened for me. It was just like she said, "Just speak," and then I started to speak, and then guys like Mython, guys like Zakane and Jeff, they all started kind of responding, and then you're kind of you're not not to say that you're not listening to what the person on the screen is saying anymore, because you're engaged in a conversation in the chat room now. Now you're talking to other people, so now it's like they're
Right.
there, but now you're making friends, and you don't even realize you're making friends. And it was just like, I think I want to try this. I was like, I think I want to like do like, the whole talking on camera and because I was
Yeah.
already kind of doing it. The Legend series YouTube was around. Like I was posting like freshly baked props, like the diorama shit I was making or vehicles that I had kind of customized, but
Sure.
nobody was watching. Still, the numbers aren't there. I'll tell you right now, but they were
I
there.
understand that.
Yeah, they were there, and I just remember going like, "Well, no one wants to give it. Obviously, no one gives a fuck what I got to say." Because I'm posting all these videos. It wasn't until I started to actually engage. I started to talk to people. And
Yeah.
then I was like, well, let me try this talking figures thing. And this was because the chat engaged with me. And I was just like, oh fuck, if I make friends with all of these YouTubers and these toy guys, then when I go to conventions, I have crippling social anxiety. It's like bad. And it's bad to a point because I'm so aware of what's going on. Like if we go to a convention, I can literally see all the people and I hear everything at once. And it's just like a fucking sensory overload thing for me. So what happened was I was like, if I make friends, then it's like I'm going there to see friends now. It's
Yep.
not, oh my God, all these strangers and what the fuck. And if I see this person that I kind of recognize from the internet, but we don't know each other because I never actually said anything to this person, now it's even more awkward because now I got to go, I watch you on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So
For
I don't want to
sure.
do that. Yeah. So I was like, if I make friends with them, if I speak to them through a podcast and just ask them questions that um, I've always wanted to ask most of these guys because I've watched all their stuff at this point, you know,
Sure.
now when I see them, we're not strangers. So like for instance, if I ever see you now, whether it's Joe Fest or somewhere else, it's immediately, oh shit, that's Mikey. It's not, oh, that's JMK Custom. I'm not
Yeah.
whispering to
Yeah.
my wife who you are. Like
Right.
that's really why I started the pod. And then now then that's with like watching everybody do live streams. I was like, I think I can do that. I think I can just talk to the camera and be like a silly ass for a couple hours. I think people,
Sure.
and at first I didn't think no one's going to listen, and my wife was like, just go live and shut the fuck up. And I went, to start doing that shit. But like, it was the same thing, dude. Like, I was gonna stay away from as afar, was not gonna engage with anybody. I was just here's my videos, watch them if you want. And, I don't
Yep.
give a fuck. But it wasn't until I got engagement because, like I said, in high school, junior high, I didn't speak to nobody. But like, I was just really quiet, kept to myself because I had anxiety even then. It's just magnified now because of the issues I have. But
Sure.
talking to people, man, is really what helped me, and now like I made so many friends through it. And it's just like I've been in the wrestling business a long time. I've never at this rate, at this accelerated rate, made this many friends this fast. You
Yeah.
understand? I was like, because you're now in a realm where everybody, I don't want to say thinks exactly like you, but what you always want to talk about and think about, which is toys and building shit, they're all thinking about the same thing.
Hmm.
So it makes it so much easier to talk to them because now
Hmm.
you have shit in common. It's not just you did this. What was that? You know,
Yeah.
I know that you buy figures and customize them. I do this, and now we have a common ground.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just something random in common.
Yeah,
You're talking about a baseline passion.
exactly.
Passion can bond some people.
Hell yeah, dude.
And, you were talking about, how messed up the world is, and I totally agree with you, and I think it would be a lot better if people still connected.
Yeah.
We stay behind our computer screens and we live through other people, but it's not until you start making connections
Oh
that
yeah.
you feel in touch with that part of it. So by us talking, in live streams and chats and stuff, we're building rapport with another. We're establishing, the cornerstones of relationships. We're
Oh yeah.
like you said, you go to a con, and if you don't know anybody, you just keep to yourself. I'm like that. I wasn't always. I don't know what happened. I used to be, a class clown and wanted center of attention. And as I got older, and I was like, I'm cool in the corner, dude. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna
Hell
sit
yeah.
here. I'm just gonna have a drink. I don't go out. I don't go to bars. Or it's not my scene anymore.
Yeah.
But this takes me out of my shell. This takes me out of my this expands my comfort zone. And that is really cool.
Yeah. That's a perfect way of explaining it. Because it's not like I'm getting taken out of my comfort zone, it's expanding it. Because like I said, it's
Yeah.
making it easy. Like, for instance, we went to Terrificon. Now, I met Woody because he started following me because I interviewed Savage Land. And he followed Savage Land. He was a big fan of Savage Land, and then he just kind of like, it was this show, Talking Figures, that got Woody, and then I just started talking to Woody every day through the comments, and then in the chat rooms of all. Like I started to see him, I was like, holy shit, that's the guy that was commenting on the Savage Land stuff, and
Yeah.
we just we became friends, and then we hung out. He came to my house. He spent the weekend at my house, and then we went to Terrificon, and I met him, and because I knew he was there waiting, I was able to tunnel vision that shit, and I didn't wasn't the anxiety was it was there, but it wasn't in overdrive. And then when
Yeah.
Zakanin and Rollkeeper, they all showed up, then it was like, oh wow, like now it's a group of people. So now you feel safe because now it's like almost like a bubble. And
Traveling
it
in a
just
pack.
exactly. And it just made everything like that much easier. Like to go out and eat with them and hang out
Absolutely.
afterwards. It was just like I wouldn't have been able to do that had this like thing didn't happen. Like had I not started to meet people and talk to them and actually want to hang out with them. Like I said, this goes deeper than just like, oh, these guys follow me on a channel. Like it's going deeper than that now. Like you're
Yeah.
making like extended connections with people. It's not just networking no more. Like
Right.
I don't know. I couldn't ask for a better. Like I said again, people don't like that word community, but I couldn't get ask for a better community to kind of step into. And don't get me wrong, I know every community has their dipshits. You
Oh,
ain't,
yeah. Yeah, it
you know,
doesn't matter if it's a housing community or a group,
does
like
not
this.
matter.
There's always going to be a select number of people that are problematic, that make it
Yeah, yeah,
difficult for everybody else to enjoy themselves.
exactly, dude. And
Just
and and
always
when
there.
yeah, and so you can't avoid them. But if you, this is the one thing I told my wife: if I'm just truly me, I don't think anyone will ever have a problem with that because it's genuine. I'm not an
Mhm,
asshole. I'm not faking. I'm not putting on an act. This
mhm.
is me. This is honestly me. So like when you, I tell people the only thing that changes is you won't get a lot of impressions. Like I won't be doing Estelle and Macho Man in public. Like that shit won't happen. Like I won't don't want attention on me. So it'll be very quiet. But like, you know, text messages, I'm like now like accessible. People talk to me all the time now. I immediately answer back or when I can. Um,
Sure.
which is I never used to do because of anxiety. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I'm talking friends that I've been with for decades. I wouldn't answer them back because I just didn't want to talk. And now I'm getting to a point now, like you said, expanding that comfortability where like, let's chat. Like
Yeah.
Mython said, I want to show you something if you don't mind. And it was the videos that he's making, like the loading
Mhm.
screens for his upcoming stuff on his YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
And to, it was like humbling. It was like, this guy wants my opinion on shit. Like
Yeah.
it's like that. That's when I'm like, this goes beyond to some dumb fucking YouTube channel to me. This is, this, so this is, Like I said, this is on another level. Like I said, I get to sit here now on a Thursday night and talk to you. Which never would have happened if it wasn't for this whole like snowball effect, as you put it, so perfectly before. Like it just
Yeah.
started out as a small and just started rolling downhill, and
Yep.
now I'm rolling to a point where I can't wait to get on here to talk to guys like you. Like
Yeah.
it's making my week, like it's
Yeah.
this is what it's all about, man.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, it's kinda surreal when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah. With that being said, I got to ask you this question. I've been dying to ask you this all week, by the way.
Shoot.
Yeah. How did it feel playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time?
That was an experience, man. Jeff hit me up about I don't know, a week or maybe 2 weeks ago, being like, "Hey, we do this on Tuesdays, if you'd be interested." And I was like, "I've never done that." I always thought it seemed fun,
Yeah,
like you hear people talk about it pretty negative, but like you're like hearing about it, like that sounds pretty entertaining. And even for me, like I'm not into swords and sorcery and stuff. It doesn't trip my trigger at all.
yeah, yeah.
But I always thought it sounded just fun. And so I was like, "Oh, I'll do it some night. Yeah, yeah, I'll pop in." And then he just kind of like the other night he just hit me with it, and he was like, "Yeah, just hop on and we'll build a character." And I was like, "All right, let's do it. Let's do it."
Hell yeah.
I get on there, and did the thing, and it'll take me a little bit to get the hang of it, but I got a feeling I'm really gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, this is one of the things. This is the second time I've played. So I played with like lifelong friends. My buddy Kenny started a campaign. I started playing, and I kind of liked the idea of just kind of sitting there with a bunch of people and playing pretend. It's essentially what you're doing, right?
Yep.
And when Jeff brought up this one, I was just kind of like, all right. Now, my buddy Kenny was very laxed with the rules. He was very laxed. So like I'm gonna be honest with you, bud. There are times where I didn't read a fucking thing. I didn't remember anything, so I would just be like, what happened? And then he would have to explain. So I warned Jeff about that. I said, I'm a novice. I'm gonna ask a lot of questions. I smoke a lot of weed, so I forget a lot of shit. You understand what I'm saying? So just as long as you're patient with me, I'll gladly go on this journey for however how long it takes. I don't give a fuck. But I just, I just want that to be known that like it's very hard for me to understand like you have to use this when this happens and you have to like trigger this and you have to wait for your turn. There's just certain things because I'm listening to him tell the story.
Mhm.
So in my head, I'm like, well, how can I, as a gargoyle, help or
A
stop
very
this?
handsome gargoyle.
Yeah.
He's so handsome.
I'm so pretty.
There we go.
But yeah, so I was just like, I try to jump into story, and then my other friend would usually let that kind of slide and be like, "All right, Tony, got roll this, and let's see how it works." Where Jeff, like for instance, my wife kind of does the same thing, and she did that shit on Tuesday, where she's like, "I say this," and he goes, "I will kill your character."
Yeah, he's like, "If
Yeah,
you try to attack anyone else, I swear to God, I will
I'll
end you."
kill, yeah, I'll end the character, and I just kind of looked at her. And I said, "You got to be careful. This isn't Kenny. This is a whole new ball game. This is a whole new campaign. That guy's rules is different from that. This is like if you're on a football team and you know that guy's playbook, and now you come over to this team, it's a whole new playbook. You're not going to be doing the
Different
same
playbook.
plays and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was just like, I almost died. I was like, yeah, because you're trying to fight every fucking thing. Why don't you kind of keep that attitude in check for a second, will you?
We're trying to convince this village to let us stay here. Maybe don't attack one of the people.
I told her though, I was
Yeah.
like, but we need a wild card. Every team
You
needs
gotta
the
have a
wild card.
wild card.
Yeah.
Everybody
So
needs a Charlie Kelly. That's for
exactly,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I have fun with it, and I'm almost willing to bet you're gonna have fun with it too. The more we play, like you're gonna get into it. Um, there are times where I gotta ask shit out of character because I'm just like, what? He's like so much dialogue and explanation. I'm like, wait, what? He sent me one time a private message, and it's like this whole like dream sequence,
Uh-huh.
and this was last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. and Zakanin says something, and they're waiting for me. And I'm just sitting there looking down. I forgot what the fuck I was doing. I was looking down at something. I can hear the uncomfortable silence, and I just like looked up and I was like, oh, I think they're talking to fucking me. So now I had to reread the thing, and I'm just like, oh fuck, and I'm nervous, kind of skim through it because I didn't want to
Mhm.
fuck this whole flow up because he laid out this beautiful story, and here I am, like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be a piece here, and I'm not even paying attention. So just be prepared for that stuff. That's all.
I already had that. I had that on Tuesday.
Oh, okay,
He sent me a message and he was
okay,
like, "Hey, when they're done with this, say this." And I was like, "When they're done talking about," I can't remember what it was. "Oh,
yeah,
you're talking about like the history, like the dreams you're having and stuff."
yeah, yeah,
And I was like when they're done talking about that. So then I'm like waiting for pauses and then I'm like, I don't think I should say anything. And then like they're like, "Hey, is your microphone working?" I'm like, "Oh, now. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah."
Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
all the work he's putting into it, though. Like, it's made I enjoy the story more than anything else.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm a sucker for a good story, and so far he's got me kind of like hook, line, and sinker to see where it goes, and all this stuff. Like the bad guy is interesting, and like um, it's just funny because this is the second time he tried to kill a dog, and this is the second time we saved a dog. And that's
You
just
gotta
funny.
love that. You gotta
Yeah.
love that.
So
You gotta
you
love
ain't
that.
gonna you ain't gonna kill any dogs on our watch, Jeff. I'll just tell you that
That's
right
right.
fucking now.
That's right. Not gonna fly. Not gonna fly. Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad and I would play with GI Joes. I mean, we'd sprawl them all out across the living room floor and set
Oh
up
yeah,
a scene, and that's what he would do. He'd create a story. It'd be like we're gonna do like a Black Hawk Down thing, right? The Tomahawk's gone down in hostile territory.
awesome.
They got to get out.
Yeah,
So we did that all the time. So like I can get on board with that. It's more the mechanics that I'm gonna have to worry about
that's
learning
that's the same thing for
turns
me.
and
Like,
and what he used to counter things, and
yeah,
it'll just take me some time, but I'm in
yeah,
on story. I
yeah.
spent last night, I spent about an hour, maybe hour and a half, fleshing out like the character's backstory and
Hell yeah,
like why he has the pipe and how it's important to him and his
awesome.
history, and it's gritty. He's a flawed character. He's a hippo man, but there's a little more to him.
Hell yeah, dude. That's
I'm in
awesome.
on that.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm having fun with it. He said you could be gargoyles, and then he basically was like, it's like the gargoyles from the cartoons. Once he simplified it for me,
You're gonna be Goliath.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
essentially, yeah, because I was reading like the background of like the gargoyle race that he created, and I was
Yeah.
just like, Jeff, this kind of sounds like Disney gargoyles, right? And he goes, yes, pretty much. And I'm like, oh, I was like, then I'm a gargoyle. And he's like, okay.
Done.
I was like, yeah, sold. You know, I don't know. I like I said, it's funny. It's to me, it's again a product of this channel. Like meeting Jeff, meeting Zakanin, meeting
Oh
you,
yeah.
meeting Grievance. My lovely wife, coming in on the live streams and getting to know everybody as well. It's becoming like I said, like I don't. It's crazy to say family, but essentially like a crazy little family that would develop in here. And I don't know. I couldn't ask for better people to meet. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's a
so
group of
far.
lovable assholes.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, for real. Because so far, everybody I've met, I'm just like, man, I don't know how you're not fucking more popular. Or like, I don't know how you don't have like more people like chasing you down to tell you how funny you are, how great you are. Like, and it goes, like I said, the list goes on from so far on Talking Figures. I have not had, like, thank God, like, I haven't had any problems or like issues with in terms of like, we didn't get along or
Sure,
like there was no chemistry there to talk to the person. Like everybody has been more friendlier than the next and more willing to kind of just go beyond like beyond just an interview. It
sure.
goes deeper and become like little like legit friends. Because like I said, I'm asking questions sometimes that are a little personal. Like why do you collect? Your father got like that kind of stuff. So I'm like learning about you, and it's like I said, it's more than just an interview to me. It's like I said, it's making a friend. And like I
Yeah,
said
it's
today,
forming a bond.
yes, and today I think we did that today, me and you. So,
Oh yeah.
thank you for that, bud. Like for real, man.
Thank you, man. This is awesome. This is
Uh,
something I never saw happening, like talking to people on
yeah,
YouTube, but it has become one of my favorite aspects of it is meeting the people and getting to know them. Like
Hell yeah.
you can talk to people in the chats, you're like, "Oh yeah, that's my buddy." But then once you get a little face to face and you really kind of peel back the onion a little bit and find out who they are, that's there's a bond there. And the
Hell
more
yeah.
you feel, the stronger that bond is. I mean, yeah, it's really awesome. And I I have conflicting social norms. Like I said, I've always been the class clown. I've always wanted to be the center of attention, and then that changed. But at the base of it, I still love talking to people.
Oh yeah.
I just don't like to put myself out there for it.
Yeah.
So once it happens, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about going up to somebody and being like, "Oh man, you know, I love your stuff," or I watch your shows." I I'm not gonna do that. I'm
No.
not that guy. I can't I'm not gonna stand in line to meet somebody that I've watched, you know, years of my life. I'm not gonna do it.
No,
But
me neither.
if they were at a bar and you just kinda struck up a conversation, and I'll sit there and talk.
Hell yeah.
That's totally cool. Like,
Dude, that's what happens a lot of the times when I go to like when I would do wrestling shows. Like I'd be in a locker room and I'd see like a legend and I'd be like, I don't fucking, I don't want to bother him.
I'm not
Okay,
gonna be that guy.
yeah, I'm not gonna be that asshole. And then like something happens where you kind of just like one time I was sitting in the back and I had a Mets jersey on and Jerry the King Lawler is back there. He goes, Mets fan, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, they suck. I said, yeah. And
Yeah,
we just started laughing. And then we just started talking about baseball. Like we just started, and the next thing you know, now I'm sitting here engaging in a full on conversation with a guy that I literally watched every Monday night on Raw, whether it be commentate or do some silly shit in the ring. It's
sure.
just like, wow, like it's all it took was baseball. Like I didn't have to go to him
Just a
and go,
little common ground, man.
yeah, yeah. And because I always tell people, I don't want to be like the Chris Farley Saturday Night Live skit where I go up to you and go, remember that time at WrestleMania?
I was
That
just
was
thinking about that
awesome.
today.
Yeah, like I
I
don't want
was
to be
totally
that guy.
gonna do that to you, actually. I was like, remember when you had 3-star draw? That was awesome."
That's what I'm saying. I don't.
But then I got too comfortable to remember to do it.
Dude, I don't do that. Like that's why I don't go up to like that's the first time with Ninja. Like I told my office, what am I gonna say to him? When you went live, that was awesome. I was like, I'm not gonna be that guy. And she was just like, it's not about that. It's just going up to him and saying, hey man, I'm a fan. Like I'm this channel. And then he'll be like, oh shit. She knew way before I did, like on how to handle this stuff, and that's why I was
No,
one of those things I
she
always
had the outside perspective. You know, you're
yeah,
close, it's hard for you to see, but she's
yeah,
looking at it from a different point of view,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I was just
and
kind
now
of
I'm
like,
sure people do that to you. You know, when you're at shows, you'll be like, "Oh, Tony,
yeah.
how the hell are you, man? I watch your stuff."
It
First time
happened.
it happened to me was at DFW,
Yeah,
and
it's weird,
it
right?
was super uncomfortable. Like, somebody comes up and like, "Hey, El Presidente," and I'm like, hey, good to see you." You know, I like like
Yeah,
first service, like, "Hey, good to see you. I hope you're doing all right."
yeah.
Like
I'm
Zakinin, you gotta give it to him. He
the
had
patch,
the
and Zakanin is
right
great
name.
because Zakanin walks right up to you and he goes, "Come on, I'm a hugger," and he sticks his hands out. And he's like, "Come on, let's just rip it the band-aid off. I'm a fan, like I'm a fan. Let's just like hang out and be cool." I was just like,
Yeah,
yeah, because like even when we went up to Laser Pants, like I went up to Laser Pants. I say, "Hey man, what's up, bud?" He, it's one of those things where it's kind of like I don't want to say it's humbling, but it is humbling. Like when those guys who like go live to hundreds of people, um, have a big following nowadays. Like it's only growing. Like him,
yep,
Chad, Jerk. For Jerk to turn around after I interviewed Jerk, he turned around. He was like, "I got to have you on the Mega Powers." It was like almost immediately, and I was just like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, come on, we're all in the same boat. Let's help each other. Let's be like, let's hang out." And
yeah,
he's like, "I'm doing this thing on Mondays, and we could use a third guy." And I was just like, "Hell yeah, I'm in." And then when I saw Ninja, and then Ninja was so friendly, came out from behind the booth to talk to me. And then like I said, I just met Laser Pants and Bobby Fowler. And say what you will about Bobby Fowler, I had a beyond pleasant experience with him. He was great. I enjoyed talking to him. I enjoyed talking to Laser Pants. And I'm
yeah,
just like, even like the guys who sit on what you want to call a mountaintop because they got the numbers or whatever the fuck you want. If you're gonna play the numbers game, even
sure.
those guys are humble. Even these guys are cool. Chad is an awesome dude. Like when I
Yeah.
got I had the pleasure of talking to him and talking figures, absolute pleasure. Like absolute pleasure. Like I said, I can't believe where we're going with this. I've never been a part of this shit, dude. When Roll Keeper came up to me, because he was the first one to come up to me at Terrificon, and he's like, Legend series. And I just like looked and I was like, what? Like I couldn't believe I was like, he was like, how the fuck? What?
Who the fuck are you and why do
Yeah,
you know me?
yeah, exactly. I
How
was like,
much
what?
money do I owe you? What's your name?
Yeah, you a cop? Yeah,
You a knack?
yeah, yeah. I don't know, dude. I just it's something else, man. And I'm honored and privileged, man. Every fucking week we do this shit, and everybody comes and hangs out, and like I said, asking you to do talking figures was hard for me because when it comes to asking guys, I've had a couple of dicks. None
Have you?
from
You've
none from
experienced
like
some negatives.
only in the sense of either they no sold the initial message, like whether I emailed them or messaged them, or
Mhm.
one guy just literally came flat out and was like, "I'm not interested in doing your podcast. Goodbye. Have a great day." Like it was so like a fucked up,
Wow.
and I
Very
was just
blunt.
like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, fuck me, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ," like,
Gotta just no, thank you for the offer. That would have
yeah,
been fine.
I'm busy
You
at
don't
the
have to tell
moment.
me I was a piece of shit.
Exactly. It's like, fuck you and your podcast. I'm
Yeah.
good. That's essentially
Yeah.
what the if I could have broken down the message to you, like literally though that's the gist, dude. It was
Right.
fuck you, have a nice day, good luck.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah.
So whatever. I don't give a shit. But the people that have come on have, like I said, have far surpassed my expectations of what to expect now. And now I like I said, I look forward to it. When guys like I say, ask you like, hell yeah, I'll be on this. I asked Gun Bunny Customs. He's like, hell yeah, when it's nice to know that people want to be on it, and it's just nice to know that it's like this has created something for people to kind of come on and have a voice. Like even that shit
Absolutely.
that happened with Mython with the cup was a direct result of talking figures, and he tells me that all the time, and I was a small part of that, and but it felt good to be that small part. Like I've never had that happen where something snowballed like that into
Yeah.
charity, into this beautiful moment for him and for Hella Dope Toys and stuff like that. So
And
it
the
was just nice
kids,
to be that.
the cause itself. I mean,
Yeah.
man, it's hard not to want to support that,
Hell yeah, dude.
you know?
Hell yeah.
That's another level of humanity.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, there's good guys, there's awesome guys, there's people you absolutely adore. And then there's people that just they give themselves completely into something and
Yeah.
commit so wholeheartedly. And unfortunately, a lot of that seems to be born from tragedy, like creating a hero in a comic book. Like there's always
Yeah.
some tragedy that creates this amazingly beautiful thing, and Spider-Man or Mython, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's
Facts, dude.
these terrible things that people have gone through that didn't sour them, it didn't skew them into the negative. It brought them another step into the light. Like that sounds really wild, but
Yeah, it does.
you know what I'm saying? Like
But it's truth.
now they're the face of a movement, of a cause, and
Yeah.
that is something really cool to see in this community. You
Yeah.
see the negative, you see people dog on each other, you see that all the time. We see that in regular life, but we don't get to talk about toys on a date. I don't know many people that just get to have people they work with that are, all about toys. Or
Man.
this is a pretty dark corner of most people. Like, you're just like, yeah, nobody really gives a shit that I collect toys, so I don't ever talk about it. Then you get
Facts,
to
dude.
this, and not only is that embraced, but there's people taking it even further, like having me on your show, man. This is incredible. I absolutely love this. I'm so stoked that you asked me to do it.
I appreciate that.
And hey, yeah, man, this is amazing.
Like,
I never thought people would want to talk to me directly about what I do.
yeah. Well, like I said, I'm a fan. I watched from afar for a while. Like I said, I watched you on chat a lot. And then I started to follow you on Instagram. And then when you started to really post on YouTube, I kind of, like I said, the video that got me was when you showed the joints, how to prevent the rub off from the joints. Because
Yeah.
I had been asking that question for years and not found one single video that that showed me how to do it. And to
Yeah,
see you
it's
finally show it, it's like it's nice to see somebody out there who's like, this is the method. You know, I'm
I
I'm
think
not
I
gonna
think a lot of customers gatekeep things like that,
yeah,
and I've just never I understand why you would do it, right? Because it creates demand for your craft because you're the only one that knows how to do it.
yeah,
However, I could watch shows all day about how to rewire a commercial building. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I may know how, I'm not gonna do it. I
that's
don't have
true.
any interest in that. That's a lot
Yeah,
of work.
yeah. Facts, dude.
But I know there are guys that wanna know this stuff because I was one of those guys.
Yeah,
I was messaging people or commenting on stuff, and for the most part, the customizers they're kinda tough to crack. Like, they're kinda they have, like, their own level of stuff, and they're like,
mm,
"Yeah, yeah, just, do this or, dismiss you or whatever." And then you get people like, Matt LaCroix, who maybe because he worked with my dad a little bit on some figure designs and stuff, I kinda had a foot in the door, but Matt was always really, really helpful and gave me the information that I asked, and I was always super appreciative and,
yeah,
and he's a great dude, and he was one of the first people that I got to really connect with, and I want that for other people.
hell yeah,
At the end of it, I want more people customizing because I find a lot of joy in it. It
yeah,
makes me really happy. Like I said, it's just overcoming an obstacle, trying to figure out or crack the code or get the right combo of parts. I know other people get satisfaction out of that because I see it in chats. I see it watching shows like yours. People want to know. I have no problem sharing what I have. And
yeah,
I don't think I'm the greatest by any means, but if you use these principles and you practice and use, here's what I did, maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. Do what I do. I wish I had more time to make more videos
yeah,
because
yeah,
people really seem to respond to that one in particular. Like I've only been doing this for a year on YouTube. Hell, 11 months I think I saw last I looked. It was like 11 months since I posted my first video.
yeah,
And since then, I mean, it's I just wanna show you how I do things. I don't need to be like I don't need to be on the Mount Rushmore of customizers.
yeah.
That's not my goal. My goal is to produce quality items and help you do the same.
Same, dude. That's a great way to wrap this up, bud. For real, for real. Like, like I said, man. A lot of people, like when what you said is about being dismissive. Like, I've asked multiple people, like I said, for years, how do you prevent this? And like you said, very dismissive. Oh, well, you just have to do this. And I always thought to myself, like, how many of us asked you that question that you still haven't made a video about it? You know, and then to see the video that you made, I was like, this is the first time I've ever seen this level of give a
Yeah.
fuck. Like where he's like, I'm showing you literally step by step how you can prevent any kind of paint rub off on the joints. Cause that's always, always, always prevented me from fully kit bashing or customizing an action figure. Was it's like
Yeah.
the waste of time that it comes when you paint something and it rubs right off and you're just like, I'm not gonna keep painting something. Like Tony's figure said to me, you just gotta remember, you paint the figure and then it just sits on a shelf. And it's like,
Yep.
yeah, but that's your shelf. I play with my toys. I was like, so we
Yep.
gotta get around that. I gotta get around that
Yeah.
part. So to
It's a
see,
big aspect. I mean, it
yeah,
really is, especially when you're not thinking of it as a statue that stands on a shelf, but one you're gonna use for play motion, one you're
yeah,
just gonna wanna take off the shelf and repose it in a different way, you know?
exactly.
A lot of my early stuff, I didn't, and I remember there were a few customizers that I was able to talk to, Craig Friskob, Daker Bush, those guys, and I remember talking to Craig several times, and he was like, "I don't prep joints." He's like, "I'm gonna put them on the shelf. What do I care? Paint rubs
Mm,
off, no big deal." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
the hell with joint prep. I'm not doing it. I don't wanna put that work into it." So a lot of my early stuff, my 4-inch figures, a lot of them don't have it.
oh
It wasn't
wow,
until later where I was like, "No, this needs to be stepped up a notch." Like, I need to be able to pose them and not worry about that flaking off. And then, especially once I started selling stuff, I was
you
like,
got
"Well,
yeah,
now it's
yeah,
completely unacceptable."
yeah,
Now
yeah,
it has to be you expect some kind of paint rub eventually from any custom, right?
Yeah.
Big companies get the ease of casting something in a certain color.
Color, yeah.
Custom stuff doesn't have that. You're always going to risk it, but if you can mitigate it, it makes it so much better.
Better, hell yeah.
So much better.
Are you a fan of soft goods stuff, or you just kind of tend to try to keep it all within the realm of GI Joe classified?
I I don't mind um accents of soft goods like
Okay.
a scarf, shamag or a cape or something like that. I feel like that adds to it, but for the most part, again, it's a challenge thing. I like the
Mm,
challenge of having to find something that gives you the appearance without completely taking you out of it. And also, I
okay.
kind of like the rub it in the toy manufacturer's face. Like you could have done this had you given a
Yeah.
shit, just like a little bit, you know. But every once in a while, actually got a soft goods figure here that I did a long time ago, and it's well, I dropped it. We're all about professionalism here at JMK Custom Works. We just want to show you how sturdy these figures are. So this is a custom D-Day Wolverine I did,
Oh wow, that's awesome, dude.
and yeah,
How
so
did you?
I found the head, and I was like, oh, dude,
Oh, so the head is
D-Day
molded that way.
Wolverine. Yeah, that's a
Okay,
molded head. That's a cast or 3D printed head. I can't remember where I got it.
that's awesome.
And then Black Ops Toys had the soft goods in that scale, and he had the um, the airborne setup.
That's awesome.
And I was like, how could I do that? And I'm looking at that World War II Captain America, and I'm like, that's it. That's
Yeah,
the legs. I
yeah,
can build off that, you know? And he's got that
awesome.
cool leather jacket. See, I had to, I trim a little bit of that off so it buttoned up. And then I just ended up taking about a half an inch out of the legs where
Come on.
the thigh swivel. I just
Yeah,
cut that out and then put it back together using a little styrene tube so it stayed secure. And then so he fits in with the rest of the Wolverines back
means
here,
that's buck.
you know.
That's an awesome figure, by the way.
Thank you.
That's like one of a kind. Again, see, like you just said, you basically just shoved it in the company's face, going like, instead of giving us another Wolverine painted with the Fantastic Four color scheme, why don't you give us that, like
Yeah.
a Captain, like that Wolverine that you could pair with original Captain America from the 40s.
Yeah.
That's
Or, I mean,
that's
here's some stuff that they have.
yeah,
Why don't
see,
you combine it?
yeah,
Do the jacket with the brown suit.
so yeah, dude, that's a good one too. God damn it,
He
dude.
was Wolverine was the first one that I ventured into doing customs on a
Yeah.
6-inch scale, and it was this figure.
Was that Days of Future Past, right?
Yeah, so I took the
Yeah,
old man Logan and I sculpted the hair,
yeah. Oh wow, dude.
did the paint on it. I sculpted the neck so it has kind of the turtleneck look like he did in the book.
What claws are those?
The um the modern brown suit one they did.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's those because they're kind of the check shaped
Like yeah,
where they
yeah,
hook at
yeah.
the end. And I was like, well, he's the oldest Wolverine. You know, he probably, you know, maybe he's got the most advanced claws.
I have a
I don't
challenge
know.
for you, sir.
Yeah.
Uh, I am currently about to start a couple projects, and one of them is the 2004 the Batman cartoon Batmobile.
Okay.
But I want to pair it with that Batman.
Oh,
He's a particular Batman. I know you're not going to get like the body shape because the artwork is
sure.
kind
It's
of
very stylized.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But I want a Batman that scales with my Marvel Legends. But I want it to have
Okay.
that look so I can pair it with the car.
Okay.
So, my challenge to you is can you help me find the pieces that would make it work? Because I at the same time I like Marvel Legends, but I don't like that everything's just painted onto the figure. It's all like there's no like raised detail. So
Yeah.
I
There's
kind
no
of want like
suit. It's just a buck.
yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah.
kind of want like, to kind of give it a little bit of, zhuzh. I want to zhuzh it up a bit so it doesn't just look
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
flat. And I know that you would probably be the guy to help. So I'm gonna like I said, I'm gonna start the car in a couple of like maybe next month. So
Mhm.
when I start the car, I'll let you know. Maybe we can figure that out. But I definitely would love the help because I can't for the life of me figure it out, and I can't sculpt ears. I found a couple of heads like Whiplash's head from the Iron Man wave.
Okay.
That kind of like when I looked at that, I was like, well, that might look like a good Batman head, but you would still need to sculpt ears and shit.
Right, because he's
A
kinda
bit-
got the Space Ghost face. He's got the
Yeah,
Space Ghost cowl,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I don't know, and the ears in that cartoon are very small. They're not like the dumb long ones, you
Right,
know.
they're like
So
Noel Batman ears, real
essentially,
short, yeah.
yeah, essentially. But he also has like sharp finger claw type things, so he can
Mhm.
kind of climb. So it's like it's a distinct look that I want. So I'm gonna need the help, and if you're interested, I would love to collab because like I say, I'm
Yeah,
gonna really. I
absolutely.
was talking to Nico Tronis as well about 3D printing me some stuff for the car because the car is gonna be a major project because I'm basically taking a Barbie Corvette that kind of has the
Okay.
same type of body style,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna just it's really just the back that needs a whole kind of like renovation. The front will
Right.
stay the same. There'll be just different kinds of accents on it. Um, but
You're
yeah,
pulling
that's
you're pulling like a 1/12 scale George Barris thing, he was the guy that
yeah,
created the original Batmobile off the Buick Futura,
yeah,
or the
yeah,
the Futura. Yeah, you're gonna I
yeah.
see what you're doing. I
I'm
see what
trying.
you're doing.
I'm
I
trying to hang
love
with
it.
the big boys, bro. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like for instance, I have a 4-inch version of the car. So I have the original toys that came out in 2004. I
Yeah,
found that Batman at a swap meet or like a thrift store, and then
okay.
I bought the car on eBay for like $10. And when the car came, immediately was like, why hasn't McFarlane made this one in a 112 in a 110 scale? Like I'm like, why hasn't he made these figures yet? Like he has made every single Batman you could fucking imagine, except for this
So
one, which is the
so
one I
many.
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of sick of the 7-inch scale anyway. So I figured if he's not going to make this Batman, I want to make it, and I want to make it so I can pair it with my Marvel Legends figures. So I'm going to need
Oh,
it
yeah.
to like move and stuff. So that's another reason why I guess I want to come to you for that shit. So if you're interested, like I said, next month we'll actually start to seriously discuss that and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe make it fucking happen. So, listen, buddy, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, dude. I it was absolutely my pleasure. I like I said, I
I
was
appreciate you.
super, super stoked about this. Uh, been watching you for a while. I remember when you started following me,
Uh,
and I remember I watched a video and I was like, "Oh, I like this guy." And then I am so terrible about like following people and
yeah,
liking things. So, I was like, "Oh yeah, okay. I like that. I like this." And then at some point I was just like, "All right, like why don't you watch stuff you subscribe to? Like
yeah,
why do you subscribe if you're not going to watch?"
yeah,
So I start watching and I'm like, "Oh my god." Like I remember commenting on your other like, talking figures, and I was like,
yeah,
these are fucking great. Like,
yeah.
he gets solid guests. He's got a real calming presence. I was like, I like this guy.
I appreciate that, and thank you
And
so
so
much.
like, getting to finally like talk to you on
Oh, yeah.
the mega powers was really cool. And then, you followed it up with this and I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
That's
Like,
what I'm talking about.
once I saw, like, I saw you on chat, and like I said, I went over to your Instagram, and I saw the work, and I was just like, "Oh, this is a gentleman that I'm definitely gonna have to sit down and talk with." So you were on my list for a while, and there's, like, a few guys that, like, some people have asked me about a few guys, and I'm just like, "They're on my list." I just either they don't answer or they're very fucking busy. Like, I just don't, like, know what to tell you, like, but they're on my list. Like, I I'm on the Mega Power shit, and I'm now just getting to Disavow, because, like, I had the list, and now I'm finally getting to him, so, I'm excited to talk to him next week. I was supposed to talk to him yesterday, but I had to take my wife to the doctor, so I had to push him to next week, but I know I'm excited, and then on next Thursday, I'm talking to Gun Bunny Customs. Like, again, these are people that I'm watching. Like, I watch Gun Bunny fuck with the Hiss tank, and I know Chad says it's not a tank. I watched his live stream yesterday.
Oh yeah, yeah. You better watch it. You better watch. You're gonna get a comment.
You could come after me right away.
Actually,
But I watched Gun Bunny like customize all those GI Joe vehicles, and I'm just like, he turns them into a completely like he painted one like that matches like certain like troopers and shit like that. Like he painted one yellow with a honeycomb or whatever. And I'm just like, yo, man, like the talent level in this community is unfucking real. It is unrivaled. Like just the amount of creativity that comes from people. Like I said, just like from the customizers, like I said, you, Tony, Toy Gains, but you see a figure and you're like, either I can make that figure better or I can make somebody that hasn't been made yet. Or if
Mhm.
guys to the diorama guys like Duarte and Vasco, to just the regular
Amazing talent.
collectors, dude, it just doesn't end. It
No.
doesn't end. And I'm happy that uh uh this is like a conduit that people can come to and just shoot the breeze and kind of like help their channel out. I never thought it was going to happen like that. Like I said, this was for selfish reasons. I just wanted to make friends.
Good as reason as any, dude.
Yeah,
Good a reason as any.
I'll take it, man. So, like
Hell
I said,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on, dude. You could catch JMK Custom Works on the YouTubes and on the Instagrams. Like I said, he does amazing work with the videos. Like I said, only guy out there that did the joint rub thing where you could literally learn how to make your joints not rub anymore, the paint rub off. No one has ever did that but this guy. And not to mention, like I said, when the Destro gets here, I'm literally gonna probably have a whole pre-roll dedicated to it. And I'm gonna fucking go nuts for it because, like I said, that's the first custom figure that I've ever actually had commissioned and
Hell
made.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
So
win, baby.
I'm excited for that, dude. Thank you so much. Like I said, head on over to JMK Custom Works on Instagram and YouTube. Give a man a subscribe, give a man a follow if you already haven't. I'm sure most of you are.
Yeah.
Like I said, his work is unrivaled, man. It's unreal. This has been Talking Figures. That's Mikey. I am Tony. And until next time, keep playing, man.